What's up, everyone? ODC here, and I'm back with another action figure review. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a kind of a two-in-one collaboration review with two figures in one review. We're going to do the Disney Store exclusive, formerly known as the TRU exclusive, but due to them going out of business, the Disney Store picked up this exclusive, which is Zuckuss, which is on the right. On the left, we've got Dengar, and he is figure number 74 in the series. Both figures look pretty cool. I really like the kind of mixed bag you get with soft goods and plastics with Zuckuss, and then we get a really nice sculpt for Dengar overall. I'm very pleased to finally get another alien-type figure, and not only is it an alien-type figure, but it is the counterpart for Forlom. So pretty pleased with that. It is also another alien type figure, so and another bounty hunter on top of that. So very pleased with that. Dengar, another bounty hunter that we were waiting for patiently. And, both of these characters, I think, pretty much only had maybe one or two scenes within the trilogy, if that. And there were more so character-based within the comics. And then later on, I believe Dengar was featured in the Clone Wars series. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get to the packaging, and we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back with both packagings, and as you can see, it says figure number 74 for Dengar on the right, and then Zuckuss does not have a number due to him being an exclusive. Flipping it around to the front, we can see artwork of Zuckuss on the left, and then artwork of Dengar on the right. Looks really good. Very pleased with how this overall packaging has turned out. I would maybe like to see a change in the packaging for 2019. Maybe switch up some of the colors, maybe go to blue or white or something else, just to kind of give us a different feel so we're not just collecting the same old down the road. Flipping it over to the back, we've got some more of the same card artwork that we saw in the front, just kind of blown up in the back. Zuckuss on the left, and you can read his little read-up if you want to. It's in 4 different languages for each character. Obviously, you can see on the Disney Store exclusive, the price has changed to $24.95. I believe on their website it was around the same price, so I think with shipping it came to around $30, something like that, which I think is a little bit high for a $20 figure, essentially. That $24.95 markup, I'm not really appreciating that too much, because if this were a TRU exclusive, it would have been $20. But because it's in the Disney Store now, it's going to be $24.95. So you're paying a premium, and then obviously you can see in Canada it's $34.95, which is a little even more ridiculous. But I do feel sorry for my Canadian friends up north. But anyway, that's the packaging in a nutshell. Okay, first up, we're going to talk about Zuckuss. And we're going to take a look at his, really, the only accessory that he comes with, which is his blaster rifle right there. I'm not really sure the technical name for the blaster rifle. You can look it up if you want to. But it looks pretty cool nonetheless. It is accurate to the original design for Zuckuss, which we saw in Empire Strikes Back. And looks pretty cool, though. I like the soft goods. Some people I've seen are actually complaining about the soft goods, saying, oh, they look cheap, and oh my god, why is the stitching so thick right here? I still think it looks fine. I'm not going to nitpick too much on that. Underneath, we've got some pants right here. As far as the knees go, they are double jointed, but we'll get to that in articulation. It's something I wanted to point out. Removing the blaster out of his hand. It is quite... he is quite limited as far as what he can hold and how he can hold it, due to him only have really 3 fingers here. But to no avail, he looks really good. I'm very pleased with how the flow of this figure is. If you lift up his right arm, it's actually both arms, they're both mirroring each other. But he does have double jointed elbows, which is really nice. And you can actually see some of the extra sculpting for his skin tone. It kind of looks a little bit, anorexic, bulimic, but with a lot of actual sculpting and paint shading going throughout there. So I can actually really appreciate that. And it is pretty consistent with how the head looks, so I can also appreciate that as well. The gloves look really good. I like the gloves I like the sculpt of the gloves as well. He kind of has like a little bit of a palm pad right here. Actually, not his palm, it would be the top part of his hand, because the palm would be the inside of your hand. But the gloves, I like the sculpt of the gloves. I think they did a really good job overall. And like I said, it does pretty much mirror the other side. So if you do lift that up, it's pretty much the same thing. Moving on to the boots themselves, they look pretty good. I like the sculpt of this. Pretty much just like a brown plastic with a black on the bottom of the boot. Looks pretty good. Don't really have any issues with any of that. Underneath here, underneath the lower torso, if you roll this kind of robe up, it's pretty much just all brown plastic. Nice sculpting though. We've got some kind of looks like he's wearing corduroys or something along those lines. But it looks pretty good, very consistent. I have to say, I don't really mind this this whole stitching spine right here. You kind of have to have that, I guess. So I'm not going to nitpick really any of that. I think overall he's a really good looking figure with some good articulation points and some good range of motion. But also moving on to his vest part right here, I think that's really well done. Nice paint shading going throughout. It's a little inconsistent, but it's meant to be inconsistent. That's kind of the point of the paint shading. It's supposed to be a little bit lighter of a tan right here, and then they mixed in some brown paint shading going throughout. Looks really good. Very pleased with how the sculpt turned out as well. On the back, we kind of have his little breathing apparatus of some sort, which is attached to his head, which then attaches to his vest here, or his rebreather, whatever you want to call it. I'm not really sure how everything works here, but I'm assuming that it works in some specific way. We do have a little bit of charcoal gray for the back of his apparatus, and then a little black tube kind of connecting to the vest. And then we have two little pouches right there. It looks really good. Nice sculpt overall. Don't really have much to complain about with Zuckuss. Moving on to the coup de grace, which is the head sculpt. Looks beautifully done. Really like this head sculpt a lot. It is very accurate as to what we saw. I like the tan plastic that he decided to go with for the head and all the little tentacle things coming out of his head. Even the silver portions and the brown paint shading going throughout the head, bringing out all those like cracks and crevices in his little alien head. Seeing figures like this so well done really makes me want to get more and more alien type creatures. Maybe some of the D and E list characters from the Star Wars. But hopefully down the road they start pumping out more and more of these alien type figures. I'm still waiting. I'm still hoping and praying that we get Mr. Crimson Corsair himself. But to no avail. Anyway, moving back onto his little silver painted portions right here. On the head itself, on the eyes, there's actually some black paint shading going throughout his eyes. Looks really good. And then over here for the little breather part, looks really good. I'm not sure if that's his mouth or his breathing apparatus or some sort, or maybe that's how he talks. He talks through that. I have no idea, but looks really good. Nonetheless, the silver paint with the black paint shading going throughout really brings out the rest of his mouth portion. And then we have a little silver tank kind of attached to his tentacle portion. Looks really good. Overall, I'm really pleased with sculpt and paint with Zuckuss. Okay, moving on to his one accessory, which is his blaster rifle. Looks really good. It's pretty much just a black plastic with a little bit of brown paint right there. And it does mirror on the other side. Let me just flip that around. And there you go right there. Very unique looking sculpt. Very unique looking design, to say the least. In some ways, it does look like maybe some sort of like World War II gun that was probably modified in some sort. But looks unique nonetheless, and I pretty much like it. Okay, as far as Zuckuss's articulation does go, his head can swivel. It cannot do a full 360 rotation just due to the tentacles kind of wrapping around here and then going to the back and then connecting on the back going up into the vest. So, but this is pretty much his range of motion right here. He doesn't really have a head tilt all that much. He can not really look back either. He's just kind of stuck in this neutral position and can look down maybe just a hair. There's probably a hinge joint in there, but due to the sculpting of the back of the head and all of the sculpting going throughout with all these tentacles, I think it's pretty much hindering all of that range of motion in the head. The arms go up very easily, up about that far, goes down. You can do a full 360 rotation right here with the arm. You just kind of have to work with the soft goods right here. But we do have a double jointed elbow right there. So really good range of motion. He can get that all the way up to touch his head. Looks really good. And he can hold that position. He does have a bicep swivel. He does have a wrist swivel. I'm trying to see if he has a gauntlet swivel. No, he does not. Wrist swivel. And he does have a hinge joint that goes up and down instead of in and out. So that's on that side. On this side, it does go back and forth. So this one goes up and down for gun style sake. So up and down that way, and then back and forth this way for this one. That's the only difference, really. He does have an ab crunch, which is pretty much hindered due to the sculpting of his vest. I'm trying to get his legs to stay straight while I crunch him forward, but it is in there. It's just hidden. He can crunch forward and back about that much. He can pivot side to side, and he can swivel also, so that's good. He can do the splits really well. Oh my God, holy cow. Puts Marvel Legends to shame. Legs go forward, legs go back. He does have an upper thigh swivel. He has a double jointed knee. He can point the toe. He can point the heel. He does have ankle pivot and 2 peg holes at the bottom of his feet. Okay, as far as Dengar does go, as far as his sculpt and paint work go, he's really well done as well. I don't really have too many issues with him, other than a couple things with his anatomy, which I will get to in this segment. But as far as the head sculpt goes, looks really good. I like the nice wrapped bandages for his head or whatever. I'm sure there's some sort of Star Wars technical term for the bandages on his head, and I'm just calling them bandages, and I'm going to get one person in the comments like, "You're an idiot, you don't know what that's called." Well, you know, I'll get that. But we also have some armor here, which is very reminiscent to, I want to say, at least the thigh armor and some of the leg armor, at least I want to say on one side, is very similar to a Stormtrooper's. But obviously there's differences there. I want to say some of these spines right here and the spines right here on the thighs, they look very similar to a Stormtrooper, just to point that out. The center armor is obviously different. It's a little bit more bulky, a little bit more burly, but it does look very similar in a way. He does have some butt armor, which is, it's butt armor. On the back, I like the sculpting of pretty much all the armor pieces. I like the little bit of subtle paint detail right here with some of the silver giving off that weathering type effect. And it is inconsistent, but like I said with Zuckuss, it's meant to be inconsistent. It's supposed to look a little bit sloppy, like random as far as his little bit of weathering going throughout. Nice weathering here, nice weathering there on that thigh as well. Looks really good. I really don't have too much of an issue with him at all as far as paint and detail go. I like all of the sculpt with him overall. The sculpt of that head looks beautiful. Looks close enough to the actor, I want to say, so I don't really have too many issues as far as most movie figures go these days. Hasbro always has been doing a much better job with the face sculpts in 2018 going into 2019. So don't have much to say as far as that. Moving on to the pouches. The pouches look really good. It's a nice brown, and then we've got a nice little tan for the gun holster right there. And then for a little bit of gray, and then charcoal gray for the belt buckle. But we do have this like lighter grayish, bluish type for the belt itself. I really like all the folds and all the wrinkles going throughout all of the white areas as far as his undersuit, which is the armor laying on top. Looks really good. I like these little kind of like gray duct tape bandages around his ankles, kind of keeping his armor attached to his leg. So maybe he got some larger armor and it doesn't stay on, and it's kind of a pain in the rear end. So he put these straps on there to hold him onto his leg. The major gripe that I have with this figure is that he's a little bit off balanced, and that has to do with these small little teeny feet. He has got some really small feet, and just to point that out, I will actually compare his feet to Zuckuss, and they're almost around the same size. And Zuckuss is a lot shorter than Dengar. So I'm not saying they have the same size feet, but they're around the same size. And I mean, if you've got a 6 foot character, he should have a little bit longer feet just so he can balance himself better. You really, with this figure, you have to find his sweet spot. And if you don't find the sweet spot, like actually on mine, my feet are actually a little bit of a quality control issue because they're actually bowing in the middle. So the foot kind of bows and it doesn't want to sit flat 100%. So I had to find the sweet spot for him. And it's kind of a pain in the rear end because I want to pose him in a whole bunch of different ways, but I really can't. I'm kind of limited when it comes to that territory, which is, a little bit upsetting as far as that goes. Or a little bit, I shouldn't say upsetting, I should say a letdown. But once you get him in his sweet spot, he will stand. Maybe that's really all you need him to do is stand, because that's pretty much all he did in the movie was stand there. And that's it. I understand he did more in the comics. I understand both these characters do more in the comics, but as far as screen time goes, he just kind of stood there. But yeah, definitely the feet. They need to be like maybe just a little bit longer, just to balance him from maybe wanting to topple forward, especially when you get his backpack on, but we'll get to that in a second as well. Overall, sculpt and detail is definitely awesome. Definitely a 2 thumbs up as far as sculpt and detail go. Okay, as far as his accessories go, here's his first accessory, which is his backpack. Looks really good. I like the overall sculpt of this backpack. Looks pretty cool. I like all of the little designs right here as far as his backpack goes. Really cool as far as different paint detail goes here. As far as his little, I guess you want to call this blanket or tent or whatever the heck that is. Looks pretty cool. I like the straps going across the back of it, and I like that they even went the extra mile to include these extra straps that kind of attach to the body, giving off the illusion that this is actually strapped to his armor. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. I like there's not a whole lot of paint shading going on here, but there is a lot of different types of paint, like for the straps, and the straps going across this green strap, this brown strap, another green strap, I like an olive drab strap right there. Same over here and there. Looks pretty cool overall, and it pretty much just has a plug system in the back. And you want to take your Dengar, and you want to take your backpack, and you simply want to plug this into his back. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. And then you want to find 2 little grooves in the armor right here. The phone is acting stupid, so I have to get that off the table. And then you pretty much just want to plug those into those little holes right there and there. And they pretty much just sit right in there. And then you've got the illusion that he is actually strapped to his armor. Looks pretty cool. The only issue I have with the backpack is it does throw off the weight of the figure, and it makes him very back heavy. So I kind of have to lean him forward a little bit, which is kind of annoying, but it's not the end of the world. Just something to point out. Okay, up next we have his blaster. Looks pretty cool. I like the sculpt of it. It's pretty much just a black plastic, though. Very similar to the DL-44, but I know it's not the same thing as Han Solo's blaster. But still looks good nonetheless. Very nice sculpt. Okay, and last up we've got his DLT-19. It's pretty much just kind of like a charcoal gray plastic. There's not any paint apps or anything on it. It's actually almost like a translucent plastic. I don't know if you can see it around the trigger guard right here, and even the trigger itself. It's almost like you can see light through it. It's so thin. It's kind of very thin plastic, but it is also a flexible, pliable plastic. So you don't have to worry about this being hollowed out or snapping or anything like that. And there's the front of the DLT-19. Looks really good. Like I said, here's this is the bipod for the DLT-19. And overall, I'm pretty pleased with the sculpt of this, and we've seen this with other characters as well. Okay, as far as everything fitting in his hand, as you can see here, he does have his blaster in his hand right here. And he does hold it nicely, so don't really have any issue with him holding it. There's the James Bond pose right there. And it does just fit right into his holster, like so. You kind of want to work with it a little bit to kind of get it to poke through that little hole, but there you go with the holster. And he can pretty much look down the sights. It's kind of close. You can't really get his head to tilt in like I'd like to due to the sculpting of the head, but you can pretty much work with it to use some trick photography or use your angles and whatnot, and you can get him to look like he's looking down the sights. Okay, as far as Dengar's articulation does go, his head can swivel to a full 360 rotation. He can look up a little bit. He can look down also. He does have a very long neck, I'm assuming. I think it goes all the way up into the top, almost like around here. So it is kind of hard to get him to use that hinge joint, which is in there. There's also a little bit of flex in the neck, which the neck joint is actually downward into the head, or the neck joint is actually going into the body. So I don't use too much pressure on the head. I wouldn't want to see you snap your head off. Just something to note. He does have a little bit of a head tilt. I don't think it's necessarily meant to be a head tilt. I think it's just kind of part of that neck joint flexing, so be careful. The arms can go up about that far, down, a full 360 rotation with that. And he does have a single jointed elbow, but really good range of motion with that single jointed elbow. Very well done. That's almost like a double jointed elbow right there. Swivel at the elbow as well. He does have a swivel at the wrist and a hinge joint which goes back and forth. Nicely done. On this side, it goes up and down due to him having a trigger finger hand right there, so it works well there. He does have a diaphragm joint which can swivel, and it can pivot a little bit side to side. It does crunch back. It does crunch forward. It'll definitely crunch back a little bit better without the backpack on. Something to note. He can do the splits very nicely. Not that he'll be doing the splits anytime soon, but legs go forward. Legs go back a little bit, a little hindered due to the sculpting of the rear end. And then we do have an upper thigh swivel, a double jointed knee. Really good range of motion with that double jointed knee. That is wow. That is awesome. And then we do have an ankle hinge, which points the heel. It points a toe. Really good job there with the pointing of the toe. And then ankle pivot and 2 peg holes at the bottom of his feet. Okay, so my final verdict for Zuckuss and for Dengar is a 2 thumbs up. Definitely a recommend, full seal of approval right here from me. And even though I have some little teeny nitpicks for each one, it's not the end of the world. I think you'll still enjoy each figure. If they made those feet on Dengar a little bit longer, maybe a little bit wider, I think it would have helped him. But I still don't have an issue with him really standing too much. You just got to find that sweet spot like I alluded to earlier. With Zuckuss, I think everything is well done. I love the cloth goods. I think that's fantastic. Please, Hasbro, don't ever stop giving us cloth goods, please, with our Star Wars figures. These are 2 key players that you needed as far as finishing off your bounty hunter guild, whatever you want to call it. With that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching, as always. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you're a new subscriber, welcome to the clan. Be sure to hit that bell for notifications until you see 2 little parentheses hanging over the bell. That way you know you get all notifications. Hit the like button. It's free for you to do, and it helps me exponentially. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.